NTA International News.
Tokyo International Conference on African Development opens in Nairobi. President Buhari says Nigeria is poised to find lasting solution to threats of terrorism. Saving cultural heritage from extinction dominates discussions at the 2016 Edinburgh Cultural Festival Summit. Plus, Tunisia Parliament approves unity government of Yusuf Chahid. Hello there, I'm Joseph Johnson and this is NTA International News. Thanks for joining us. The 6th Tokyo International Conference on African Development has opened in Nairobi, Kenya, with a pledge by the Japanese government to invest at least $30 billion in Africa's future in the next 3 years. Prime Minister Shinzo Abe announced these while addressing participants at the event, which provides African leaders the opportunity to present their own African dream and seek a new type of win-win partnership with Japan to realize it. State House correspondent Adamu Sambu reports.
Attending for the first time since coming to power, President Muhammadu Buhari joined over 30 other African leaders at the conference aimed at mobilizing global support for Africa's development through the promotion of dialogue, collaboration, and voluntary initiatives amongst a wide range of actors. Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, who delivered a keynote address at the event, expressed the conviction that Africa's socio-economic transformation is central to global stability and prosperity. To this end, he promised that in the next 3 years, Japan will invest $30 billion in developing quality infrastructure, building resilient health system, as well as laying the foundations for peace and stability on the continent. He said quality as the strength of Japan will be used to empower at least 10 million people, ensure that 2 million others have access to basic healthcare services, and techniques of rice cultivation transferred to 60,000 farmers for food security.
The partnership connecting Japan and Africa has entered really a mutually beneficial stage. Japan's pledges I am introducing now will also benefit both of us, Africa and Japan. Today's new pledges enhance and further expand upon those launched 3 years ago. The motive here is quality and empowerment.
Both the chairman of the African Union, President Idris Deby of Chad, and President Uhuru Kenyatta of Kenya applauded the Japanese government for prioritizing Africa's agenda and using a pragmatic development paradigm and modalities to bring concrete results to support development and stability.
Together, we must ensure that the global trade and governance system is supportive of African enterprise and our people's aspiration to prosper.
There were goodwill messages from the United Nations, World Bank, African Union Commission, and the UNDP.
Together, we can ensure that no one and no African is left behind.
What will be called Nairobi Declaration is expected at the end of the conference that will commit the participants to some very specific deliverables that will be easy to assess at the end of the next 3 years. From Nairobi, Kenya, Adamu Sambu, NTA News.
Still from the conference, President Muhammadu Buhari says Nigeria will diligently ensure full rehabilitation of victims of Boko Haram and find lasting solutions to combat threats of terrorism in the country. President Buhari was speaking at the opening of the 6th Tokyo International Conference on African Development. He reaffirmed that Boko Haram terrorists have been degraded, even as the reintegration of internally displaced persons, IDP, in the country receives immediate attention, acknowledging Japanese assistance through UNICEF in the rehabilitation of victims of Boko Haram. The president commended development partners for their work geared towards improving the lives of about 2 million IDPs in the country. The two-day summit has the theme Advancing Africa's Sustainable Development Agenda Partnership for Prosperity. A draft declaration is to be adopted at the end of the summit, which will seek to combat the growing threats of terrorism, conflicts and violent radicalism through the promotion of education and job creation. Turning to security now, the 133 Special Forces Battalion of the Nigerian Army troops have carried out a precursor operation to exercise Crocodile Smile, aimed at getting rid of all forms of criminal activities in the Niger Delta region of Nigeria. In the course of the operation, 5 militants that attacked the troops were killed in action, while numerous others were injured and 23 suspects were arrested. A statement by the Acting Director, Army Public Relations, Colonel Sani Kukasheka Usman, said the operations, which was conducted yesterday, 26th August 2016, was carried out by the Special Forces at the militants' camps. The statement said items recovered from the camps include rifles, 11 palm action guns, a locally made revolver pistol, 292 cartridges of live ammunition, 199 rounds of AK-47 rifle ammunition, 4 electricity generating sets, and a cam gas cooker. It added that the troops also recovered an abandoned engine boat left by the fleeing criminals. To health matters now, worried by the recent outbreak of polio in Goza and Jere local government areas of Borno State and the danger of the spread of the disease to neighboring states, Taraba State Governor Darius Ishaku has urged stakeholders to take the ongoing immunization exercise in the state as an emergency measure. Joseph Zana Gambo has details.
Apparently concerned by the recent report of outbreak of poliomyelitis in Goza and Jere local government areas of Borno State and the danger of the spread of the disease to neighboring states by internet displaced persons, the Taraba State Governor Darius Dixon Ishaku called on stakeholders to look at the ongoing immunization as an emergency measure. He called on traditional and religious leaders as well as parents and development partners to work together to sustain the 2-year polio-free status of the country. The governor, represented by the Deputy Governor Haruna Manu, commended WHO, UNICEF, Center for Disease Control, and other donor agencies for their support and promised to continue prompt payment of counterpart funding.
I must therefore inform you that we should not be discouraged in our collective efforts as one people under one nation and government towards making Nigeria a country free of polio virus.
The Commissioner of Health, Dr. Innocent Vakai, said the state will not rest in its odd to secure the lives of children who he said are the future leaders of the country. He called on communities to partner with the government to rid the state of child killer disease as part of its rescue agenda.
The outbreak of the wild polio virus type 1 in Goza and Jere local government area of Borno State necessitated this current campaign in Taraba State as a response to contain and keep Taraba State free of polio virus after 3 years of no case.
The Executive Secretary of the State Primary Health Care Development Agency, Aminu Joru Hassan, representative of donor agencies and other stakeholders, while commending the state government for its effort, emphasized the need for synergy in the fight to eradicate polio in the state and the country. In Jalingo, Joseph Zanagambo, NTA News.
Now, President Muhammadu Buhari congratulates the Nigerian Bar Association NBA on the inauguration of its new executive led by Mr. Abubakar Mahmood San at the 2016 Annual General Conference held in Port Harcourt, while commending the outgoing executive led by Augustine Alege for the resourceful exchange of ideas, commitment and support for national development. President Buhari urged the new president of the NBA to use his vast experience in private practice and public service gained over the years to build on the legacies of his predecessor and contribute to reforms across the country. As the new executive settles down to work, President Buhari looks forward to having a strong and sustainable relationship with the leaders, especially in jointly tackling the challenges currently facing the nation. The head of the Civil Service of the Federation, Winifred Oyoita, has met with members of the Council of Retired Federal Permanent Secretaries seeking their support for the restoration and dignity of the service.
The purpose of this interactive session is to enlist the buy-in of members of COFEPS to the implementation of the strategic focus of my stewardship as the head of the civil service of the Federation.
Responding on behalf of his colleague, the chairman of the Abuja chapter of the council, Azubike Okafor, reiterates their commitment to the total transformation of the federal civil service for the good of the nation. Now, President Muhammadu Buhari has approved the composition of the governing boards of the Nigerian Port Authority (NPA) and the Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency (NIMASA). A statement from the office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation says the 11-member board of the NPA is headed by Emmanuel Olajide Adeoye as chairman, while that of the NIMASA is headed by Major General Jonathan Garba as chairman. Labour matters now. Labour Minister Chris Ngige says the federal government is determined to establish the culture of skills acquisition among youths in Nigeria. He stated these are the formal flag off of the pilot phase of the NDE School to Work scheme. Udwaretam has details.
The minister said the scheme is to establish the culture of skills acquisition among the young ones in Nigeria under the regular school system, thereby incorporating the skills into national educational system. The School to Work scheme, according to Dr. Ngige, is aimed at introducing the concept of skills acquisition training very early to the students in junior and secondary school classes.
Next vacation, we'll bring them. They're automatically coming in to do higher skills. Upper vacation, they come again, because this is a program for JSS 2 to SS2.
The Acting Director General of the National Directorate of Employment, Mr. Kunle Obayan, noted that the scheme is to provide vocational, agricultural and entrepreneurial skills training for the students during the long vacation period. The scheme, Mr. Obayan said, was introduced to address the challenge of youth unemployment in the country. Secretary to the Cross River State Government, Tina Agbo, lauded the initiative, which she described as a journey that would enable trainees acquire the necessary work skills.
We give them the skills such that even if after JSS they drop out, they have a skill to fall back on. And if they proceed further, they still do have a skill to utilize for their upkeep or subsidize their educational expenses down the line. If they
Now to thank you over and over. The zonal office of the South is Cross River, Calabar is chosen. So we have the dual advantage. We have the state office, we have the zonal office. So our children are chosen, and we are beginning to read from this scheme first.
The trainees speak.
It's really helping us because instead of us staying at home idle, at least we can leave our parents' house to come here to achieve something.
It helped me to motivate my skills, to be creative in whatever I'm being taught.
Main point of the event was inspection of the exhibition. In Calabar, Udwak Etam, NTA News.
Up next is Muplang Dakog with business news.
Revenue into Nigeria's Federation account for the month of July recorded a shortfall of 250.97 billion naira. The shortfall, which is attributed to activities of pipeline vandals released by the Federation Account Allocation Committee, shows that allocation to the three tiers of government witnessed a decline of 115.36 billion naira from 559.03 billion naira in June to the current 443.66 billion in July. And elsewhere, Iran's oil minister says the country will cooperate with Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, to stabilize the world market. The ministry's new agency, Shana, which made this known, said the minister says he expects other oil exporting countries to respect its rights. Muplang Dakok, NTA News.
Protecting cultural heritage-dominated presentations are the second plenary session of the 2016 Edinburgh Cultural Festival Summit in Edinburgh, Scotland, where speakers shared their experiences on the threat posed to historical heritage around the world. Anthony Forson reports.
With the hindsight of their background and the reality on ground in their home states and other world bodies working for the preservation of such heritages, they all spoke in this line.
Place culture at the core of international development. Culture has to be seen and to become an asset to development rather than a further unwanted drain on already limited resources.
Aleppo is one of the most important World Heritage City in the world. Unfortunately, now Aleppo, like Warsaw City in the 1944.
The position to engage more women also dominated the session, which Nigeria's Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, commended.
Why are we excluding 50% of our population from the creative industry? So I'm happy that Nigeria is taking the lead in creating this, in asking for a capacity training center for women in tourism and the creative industry.
This year's Edinburgh Cultural Festival is titled Building Resilient Communities, and for the first time, the media was invited to cover the workshops and the plenary sessions. From the Parliament building in Edinburgh, Scotland, Anthony Forson, NTA News.
Thank you, Anthony, and you are watching NTA International News from Abuja, Nigeria. Stay tuned for more news after the break.
Information is power. Everyone wants power. So feel powerful with the NTA News mobile app, the one-stop information center. Real news at your fingertip. Be the first to report by uploading first-hand information on the U-Report link. And be the first to know by simply clicking on any of the links on the sidebar for headlines, domestic and foreign news, economy, security, politics, sports, and more. Stream live on your smartphone and tablets and stay connected. It's pretty easy. Simply download NTA News app from your Google Play Store and you're good to go. NTA News mobile app, your access to real-time information.
Hello and welcome back. For stories that made headlines in the outgoing week, Justin Bemuyi is our guide.
Hello there and a warm welcome to the Week in Review with me, Justin Bemunyi. The Federal Executive Council in the course of the week approved the 2017 to 2019 Medium-Term Expenditure Framework and Fiscal Strategy Paper in line with Fiscal Responsibility Act. The Minister of Budget and National Planning, Udoma Odo-Udoma, who announced this after the Federal Executive Council's meeting, said the process of preparing the 2017 budget has begun.
So we have numbers for all the things that we expect. But because the oil is volatile and it's an area that has caused us to be where we are today, we want to assure Nigerians that we are not going back to using high estimates.
The United States Secretary of State John Kerry was in the country during the outgoing week. Receiving the American Secretary of State at an audience in State House, Abuja, President Muhammadu Buhari pledged that the anti-corruption crusade in the country will be deepened and institutionalized to last beyond the life of the current administration. The president appreciated the intervention of the U.S. before the 2015 polls, demanding free and fair elections in Nigeria. John Kerry also had a strategic meeting with some governors of the northern states in Nigeria and the Sultan of Sokoto, during which issues relating to security, economy, well-being and stability of the nation dominated discussions. President Muhammadu Buhari in the week also met with the president of the Islamic Development Bank, Dr. Ali Madani, where he expressed Nigerians' formal appreciation to the bank for its robust intervention in critical sectors of the nation's economy. The president was particularly delighted at the willingness of the institution to support agricultural development drive. Former head of state General Yakubu Gowon also had a closed-door meeting with President Muhammadu Buhari, where he expressed his full support to the renewed onslaught against corruption by the Buhari administration, describing it as inevitable for national salvation. General Gowon also applauded government efforts at addressing the problems of security and economy. In the same vein, during the outgoing week, the Alafin of Oyo, Oba Lamidi Adeyemi, was at the presidential villa, where he applauded the genuine efforts by the president at addressing what he called anti-dimensional problems of the country, and solicited support and understanding of Nigerians. The monarch, who submitted a memoranda on the way forward for Nigeria to the president behind closed doors, said the memo captures the prevailing socio-economic and security challenges facing Nigeria and the pragmatic ways of addressing them. In the course of the week, you also heard that the federal government launched a revised edition of the National Counter-Terrorism Strategy, where the president reiterated his commitment in the fight against terrorism.
The government is determined to ensure that the safety and security of every single Nigerian is a priority.
Another story that made headlines during the week was that the Nigerian Immigration Service is insisting that for the dispersed 2,000 officers and men who were unilaterally and illegally recruited into the service in 2015 to be reconsidered and formally admitted into the service, they must be rescreened and pass through all clearance systems.
I hope this will be very clear to all Nigerians and to the applicants that nobody should disrupt or deceive them, but not to come for the verification. But if they refuse to come, fine for them. It means they have something to hide. Why can't you come for a test? Well, our officers serving can come for the same test. If they come, they are screened, they pass through, we'll give them their papers, and they will be working with us.
And just before we round up the review for the week, we remind you of a report that came from the agriculture sector, where the International Fund for Agricultural Development, IFAD, is set to provide inputs worth over 60 billion naira to farmers in 6 states of the Federation to close the country's deficit in the demand and supply of rice, as well as boost cassava production for export. And that does it on this segment. Thank you so much for being there. But do stay on as the news continues.
Justin Bemuyi there. Time now for some stories trending across the globe. And Nancy Godi Anunihu is our guide.
The Tunisian parliament has approved a new government which will take office in the next few days. The unity government, led by Prime Minister-designate Youssef Chahed, was backed by 167 members of the 217-seat parliament. The government includes Islamists, leftists, unionists, and independents. Youssef Chahed, 40, will become Tunisia's youngest prime minister since the country won its independence from France in 1956. A mass funeral has been held in Italy for some of the 284 people killed in Wednesday's earthquake. The ceremony for 35 victims from the town of Akwata began at a sports hall in the region.